So for today's discussion, we brought together some of the North's most exceptional founders who are building some incredible businesses to discuss what they wish they knew on their journey to success. So we hope that by the end of today's discussion, some of you in the room today will leave feeling a little bit more confident about building your own business and the journey that you're on. So before we kick off with the discussions, let's just do a quick round of introductions. So I'll start off with Danny. Danny, can you just introduce yourself and a little bit about your business?
Sorry, my microphone is not working.
Well, we'll move on to Susanna in the meantime. Is that all right, Danny? Yeah.
Hi everybody, so my name's Susanna Lawson. I was co-founder of a edtech business called OneFile. We founded in our back bedroom back in Burnage in 2005, so when I was a real whippersnapper then. OneFile, we scaled it out of our back bedroom. We grew to a team of about 80, multi-million annual recurring revenue, and we sold in October 2021 to the second largest tech company from Canada after Shopify. I swore I was never going to start a business again. I was having a lovely time being an ambassador of OneFile, still doing non-exec work, board advisory work, and then I met a woman who I thought had a brilliant idea, and we are now co-founding a digital word-of-mouth platform called the Circle of Trust, which will be launching in September.
Mo?
Hi, I'm Mo, and it's great to be on a panel where you're going to be talking about your fuck-ups, basically, which is you know, quite refreshing, and probably why we're here, because we've messed up, or I've messed up many times. So I started my journey as an entrepreneur in 1996. So it's been a long time, in the basement of Dale Street, which wasn't as gentrified as it is now. Started in digital reprographics, which was new tech at the time, and over the last 30 years scaled probably over 12 companies, spin-outs, charities, and currently I'm the CEO and founder of the IN4 Group. We operate Host at Media City, and our mission is to make tech fairer for all rather than just for some.
Brilliant, thank you. And Danny, you've got backup mic now.
Hello, yeah. Thank you very much for sorting it out. So I think you are right. You know, we are about to tell our story about all our fuck-ups. So my journey started, I think I've been a hustler since I was actually born, which is not great, but you know, I'll tell you all about it. So I started in the music industry as a record producer, but I used to play all instruments at a really young age. And professionally, I was an aeronautical engineer, so I used to design or program all the planes that you guys have been flying, so I love the software, so you need to be careful, you know, when you're flying. I'm joking. So that's my professional background, so I was an aeronautical engineer. So 2014, I decided to combine my passion for music and technology to set up MyManu. And what we do is we decided to create things that no one has done before. We invented the world first true wireless earbud with live voice translation. So if you were to travel and you meet someone who doesn't speak your language, you just speak whatever you speak, and then the person will hear what you are saying in their own language, and vice versa. That has been very successful. So we've gone through, you know, trust me, a lot of fuck-ups. But there is always light at the tunnel, and hopefully today I'm going to share all that with you guys. So that's me.
Great, thank you, Jenny. And a quick intro to myself. As I mentioned, my name is Tania Rahman. I'm an investment manager at Praetura Ventures. And at Praetura, we're arguably probably one of the largest VCs based right here in Manchester. We invest across everything from B2B SaaS right through to health, tech, and life sciences businesses. Check sizes can be from anywhere between 500k right up to the £3 million mark. So if any of you in the room today are looking to fundraise and you're based in the North, I would love to catch up with you afterwards. So, but before I actually joined the dark world of VC, I, like many of you in the room today, and like our panel, was a founder. And I arguably built a business in what is considered the most non-tech sector going, which is traditional hospitality. And I grew that business to 5 restaurants based in London and sold it smack bang in the middle of the pandemic. So arguably you could say that was my biggest mistake. But we're here to probably hear more about the founders today as opposed to mine. So we'll kick off with the questions. So the first question we have, to stay on theme with the topic, which is, what I wish I knew before starting out on the road to entrepreneurship. I'm going to ask the panel today, I'll start with Susanna. Susanna, this isn't your this is your second rodeo, as you mentioned. What is that one piece of advice that you took on your second startup journey from your first one?
Yeah, so when we started in 2005, like I said, in our back bedroom, it was just me and my partner at the time. I had no idea about network. I had no idea about getting to know other people and everybody supporting each other. I have no idea what the tech scene was like back then. I didn't even realize we were building a tech company for years, to be honest. So for me, what I've taken forward from then until now is the power of the network, and being in organizations like this or being in rooms like this and chatting to other people. So starting from a starting point far further on now than we ever did back then by having a big network. I mean, Rob, who was speaking earlier, I connected on LinkedIn with him a few days ago and then bumped into him here today, and we had a really great chat in the break about the mistakes and things that startups make with tech, etc. When we were talking about who we should bank with, Nat West, who I know who are in the room, Heather Waters is a massive advocate of female entrepreneurs, so I'm a business partner and wanted to work with Nat West, and they had their accelerator program, which Danny's been on as well, and we didn't know about that, but by talking to our network we found out about that, and we're straight onto an accelerator program as a startup. So you've got all of that support straight away, which I never did. But with a network, it doesn't just happen overnight. You can't just go to one event and expect everyone to be there at your beck and call. If you need anything, you have to take time to build that relationship and also to give back. So if somebody asks you for help for something, it's not all just take. You've also got to give back to the network if somebody asks you for help as well. But for me, second time round, the network, I can pick up the phone, drop a WhatsApp to anybody. What did you do about this? What software do you use for this? How did you overcome this challenge? And it feels, touch wood, a lot smoother at this stage than it ever did before.
Brilliant. I love that idea of paying it forward. I think that's absolutely important, especially when you are, building a business and growing that network. Yeah, thank you, Susanna. That's great. Danny, how about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'll back what Susanna said. I wish I knew that I could, put together a support team. And the reason why I'm saying that is, being an entrepreneur is quite a lonely journey. It's not easy. You've got the financial side of things, but you have the emotional side of things. And if you're attached to what you are building, it can be really difficult. So I think you need people that you can sort of bounce idea and also release stress with them. So people that are already doing it, and I'm talking about having mentors, people that can give you advice in terms of if you're going through the fundraise sort of route, they can sort of guide you and share their experience with you so that you can actually learn from it. I wasn't aware of all that kind of stuff, so it was really, difficult. And when I joined the accelerator, it was fantastic because, I was able to actually go on a lunch break and chat with my friend, and we shared the same sort of challenges. And if I knew that before, I would have been able to sort of correct all the mistakes I made. Yeah. So, if I was to give advice on this, I would say try and have a support group. I mean, people that you can, they share the passion in terms of what you are doing, that you can actually talk to. When you are below, that's when you're low, you need that kind of push to keep you going. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know in Manchester we have such a thriving community of accelerators up here. We've got some of the best in the country. Nat West, as you both mentioned. We've also got Bonded Warehouse. There's Enterprise Nation from there as well. Yeah. And also start of Barclays Eagle Labs that's just taken over the mandate from Tech Nation. So great, thanks, Danny. And how about yourself, Mo? What's one thing you wish you knew?
And there's host as well. Tania.
Host as well. Gosh, how could I forget? Yeah.
I think, can I just, how many founders are there in the room? Just hands up, just to know that, who am I speaking to? And the rest of you are just here for the lunch, is it? Great. Sam puts on a great lunch. I think one of the things, every time I've failed, and I look back on 30 years, every time I've failed in a venture or a business, I can guarantee what happened there now. And I didn't know that then. And that was because I lost my purpose. I completely lost my purpose, and my intent was rusty. When I started in '95, I had to succeed because my dad said, I'll never speak to you because why are you going into photocopying, which you can find in a corner shop? And I had to prove him right. I had to prove him right because he would not speak to me until such time that I could show him that this is really a future that I can achieve. That was my purpose. It was absolutely unequivocal. I worked 20 hours of the day just to prove that that would come about. And I had no plan, I had no idea of how I was going to do it, but I had this absolute pain in my stomach that was going to make it happen. And purpose is, an intention is absolutely paramount. The connection between you and the purpose is the intention. And the intentions with many entrepreneurs becomes rusty because you don't have that pure connection between why you're doing what you're doing. This is where we give VCs a bit of a knocking, and sometimes rightly so. If you're not fixated on why you're doing it, you will allow other people to deviate you from where you were heading. If you're not true to your actual mission, you will allow for the kudos and the publicity and the fact that people will ask you to sit on panels and talk about your journey, and you will be distracted from where you should have been. And that's the key fundamental, that those people who stay fixated on whatever that purpose may be, whether it's to prove your dad wrong, or to put food on the table, or to reach somewhere where you can make a change in society or the world, then stay fixated on that. Because intent will bring intensity, and intensity will bring impact.
Brilliant. Well, that's a really, well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was just going to say that's a really powerful answer, Mo. And how did you bring that purpose to your second business, IN4 Group, then? What was driving you?
Well, there's no other way to do it. Danny's one of our, brilliant sort of businesses in our hub. If I speak to any founder and within 5 minutes I cannot see that purpose from their face when they talk about why they're doing what they're doing, I'll say to them, stop. There's a million accelerators in the world who will tell you and blow smoke up your backside and say, yeah, great. Why? Because they want to just celebrate the fact that you had 30 startups in the accelerator and thank you very much, let's move on. But nobody really says to you that, wait a minute, why the effing hell are you doing this? Why are you making all these sacrifices? Why are you doing this? Where is your ultimate purpose? What do you want to achieve from this? And if you cannot articulate that in that instance, and it's not so what you articulate, it's what comes through your emotion, then VCs. Well, I'm privileged that I've created not to any level of but I can invest in companies. I can invest in ventures. I would never invest in somebody who doesn't move me, irrespective of whether it's a barbershop mirror or you're changing the situation for kids in Rwanda. But I need to see that you are fixated with this. You are possessed. Any founder sitting in this room must connect with somebody. Must feel that this person's a maniac. Because they're not bothered about anything else. I don't care for whatever you want to say, but this is my goal. And I will not be moved from that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mo. Thank you. Right. So one of the things I wanted to actually discuss, and it's the beauty of events like this as well in the heart of Manchester, bringing together everyone in the ecosystem. So our three founders today, as well as most people in the room today, have chosen Manchester to have headquartered of their business. So I want to start with you, Danny. You're originally from London, right? Born and bred. And then you chose to move your business to Manchester. So can you tell me why Manchester specifically?
I actually start from Manchester, just to correct that. So, but I moved to Manchester for Rolls-Royce, unfortunately, because, but then in Manchester I started my business. Now, the reason why I didn't actually start it in London was because I was able to identify the people I need in the circle to help me, make that sort of decision or make that move. But in London, I wasn't able to sort of identify that people. So maybe it's just because it's too noisy or it's too big. I don't know. But honestly, I found Manchester really easy to actually talk to people and also get the support you need, because I think that's what I needed. I come from engineering background. I build stuff. I invent stuff, right? I can, sit down and build. But taking it to market is completely a different ball game, if you know what I'm trying to say. If you want to take products global, we are building hardwares and we are building softwares, and we are building product that you can actually go to store and buy. The certification, the compliance, God, it's unbelievable. And we were working with, as a startup, I was working with large organizations, companies that, will take you years to get to them. We started the company and instantly I was working with these people. So it was like a huge, I have no idea what I was doing. And then KPMG, you know, I don't know if anyone from KPMG here? No? So KPMG stepped in and, you know, they were fantastic. They helped me. And I think at that time there was the Growth Hub, the Business Growth Hub in Manchester. Yeah, they were fantastic. You know, I had a mentor, you know, he was able to take me through the process, what I need to know. But all this support was something that I was able to reach, you know, easily and fine, whilst I was not able to get that in London. So, yeah, and I decided to stay in Manchester. I mean, we have offices in California, everywhere, you know, Germany, Spain, you know, we could decide to move the whole headquarters to, you know, the States if we want to. That's where about 98% of all our, you know, sales or partners are based in the US, but we decided to stay in Manchester because of the ecosystem. It's really friendly. And, you know, you get a chance to talk to quite cool people, you know, like, you know, Mo, you guys, you know, share ideas and grow. But I think we need to do more compared to what I've seen. You know, we are well known abroad than Manchester. And sometimes, you know, when I'm in the Valley and I'm talking about all the cool stuff we are working on with these big companies, and I said, I'm from Manchester. I said, oh, hang on a minute, before you were next door somewhere in California. I said, no, we are not in California. That office is just to take the bus for you guys. But we are actually from Manchester. So, yeah, I don't think we'll move from Manchester, fingers crossed. Yeah.
And what do you think is causing that disconnect then? You're saying you're well known globally, but not so much locally.
I think it comes down to me saying we need to do more. You know, the stuff the guys in Host are doing is fantastic. You know, like I've had a couple of chats with Mo today, and the support, they are trying really hard to sort of activate, you know, the ecosystem here in Manchester. But equally, you need talent, right? Without the talent, it's really difficult. You know, we can throw an ad out, and instantly we get so many people from London, you know, jumping on. I mean, we've got people moving from London to come and work with us here in Manchester. It's crazy. Recently, we have about 5 engineers. They moved all the way from London to Manchester, so we don't have that here. And companies like, you know, IN4 in the Host, these guys are really pushing it. So I think if we are able to find those talent, eventually you will get the money, the VCs, because like Mo did mention, I invest in companies as well, and I'm not going to put my money into a company whereby I'll look at the team and I say, okay, hang on a minute, what are you building? You know, we are going to build this, how are you going to deliver that? And you don't really have the team to do that. I will not do that, it's a risk, right? But if we tackle that talent issue, 100%, people will just throw money at us. Yeah. It doesn't matter where you are. You could, you know, be in a little, you know, town or village. If you've got the talent to do it and you are actually delivering it, you get the money you need. So I think, from our point of view, I think that's what we lack here in Manchester. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Thank you, Danny. And Susanna then, so you're a serial entrepreneur and you've, from Manchester as well? Yeah. And so you've built your second business now. How have you seen the ecosystem in the city change from building your first business to today?
I mean, it's massively changed sort of since 2005 when we first started. I mean, it was relatively easy to find developers back then. They were at a reasonable cost back then. Obviously, over the years, especially since COVID, the cost of talent has risen exponentially. During COVID, we had recruiters from London the opposite way, trying to poach Manchester and northern developers because they didn't have to live in London anymore. They realised they could live anywhere, so therefore they can pay a London salary, but recruit them from up north, and they didn't have to move, so that's brilliant for them. But then as a small to medium business trying to keep up, you know, somebody that was on 50 grand is now expecting 70 grand, 75 grand, 80 grand. And, you know, it was becoming a lot harder and harder. And I can remember about 13 years ago being in a boardroom going, we're struggling to get talent then. That was about 13 years ago. What do we do? And we were looking at hubs around England which had maybe great computer science degrees and graduates coming out of it, but not many tech businesses in the area. So we were looking at somewhere like Norwich, because I knew a tech business in Norwich. He goes, oh God, we've got hundreds of applicants because there's no tech businesses here. So we were able just to get really good talent. So I was like, well, why can't we set up a hub in Norwich? And then one thing that we were actually looking at, you know, even when we were looking at selling OneFile, it was, right, if this doesn't happen, we still have a tech problem, so let's not just act like this is definitely going to happen and we're going to sell it, it's not our problem anymore. What are we going to do? And we did actually look at start offshoring because, you know, and that was something I swore I would never do, but for the rising costs for a tech team, was it possible to offshore it? We never actually got that far, but we started off on that research route, and maybe not for everything, but for some of the projects that we were doing to make it cheaper and more accessible and easier for us to be able to recruit for that. So, you know, and that was something that I never wanted to do. I wanted to keep it onshore and in-house. That was what I wanted to do, but it was just it was out of desperation because I could see that we weren't able to innovate and grow as fast as we wanted because we couldn't recruit the talent quick enough. You know, projects were being kicked 6 months a year down the line because we didn't have enough developers. But it's, you know, it is a fantastic city. Obviously, you know, Andy Burnham is, you know, is looking at the infrastructure for transport. He's making it more accessible, cheaper for us. You know, it's been really reasonable down in London and reliable up in Manchester. You know, the Northern Powerhouse, you know, I had to go to Liverpool the other day. I decided not to get the train because it was too unreliable. It took me 2 hours to drive to Liverpool. So it was just, you know, it's just, we need to sort out the Liverpool, Leeds, Manchester routes. And make it more accessible to do business between the three. But, you know, the tech scene is fantastic in Manchester. There's so many networks now, so many product owner, UI, UX, developer, everybody's here, and they're all creating their own sorts of networks and events and coding sort of innovations. It's brilliant. But yeah, exactly what Danny said, it's that ability to have affordable talent.
Yeah,
for me is the biggest issue.
Absolutely, and that situation's only getting worse now, you know, with inflation and the cost of living, and then the big tech crunch, really, with the number of developers that are out of jobs. It's exasperating the situation. So, yeah, I agree with you there, Susanna. Mo, I want to come to you because you've been in the city for about 30 years now. You've built your business over that length of time, and you've seen a number of different changes happening to the city, and it's one of the reasons that led you to start IN4 Group as a whole. So can you talk to us a little bit about that and what you've seen over the years?
Yeah, I mean, look, my first investor was a gangster, so I mean, you know, this is how we used to roll in 1995. He used to have I'll just tell you this. Where I started in the basement, there was a partition, so there's two places apart. The other side of it was selling contraband designer gear. So essentially, all of the gangster community of Manchester used to be there all day, every day. And there used to be kickoffs, and so many times the wall partition would be coming through because somebody's knocked the head out of somebody because he's, like, you know, taking some jackets for whatever. But the reality was, you made friends with that community. And they were the people with money. And you know, and I go back to the fact that entrepreneurs are creative in their DNA. And you find a way. And look, I'm not saying that I'm advocating the fact that you guys go and just, you know, make friends with the underworld. But in reality, you know, let's be honest, some of that money does come from the underworld. So, I mean, I won't go into that subject area. But the point here is that Manchester was a gritty, very, very authentic place. I sometimes get worried that we're losing our authenticity in Manchester, what makes us truly who we are in our culture, in our identity, and I'd be very worried about, you know, us just matching London and every other global city for what it is. I think we have some serious, you know, power in our authenticity in that. But yes, in 30 years, you know, look, when I started, you only had the bank manager and a, you know, underworld boss to go to, because this whole venture capital world had not reached the shores of Manchester. And let's be honest, Piccadilly Gardens was not gardens. It was bonfires and, you know, all sorts of stuff going on. Ardwick and Ancos was not, you know, all this sort of, you know, nice coffees for 5 quid. It was something else after 5 o'clock. But the reality is that, you know, as a city, we've done it ourselves. We have been organic in every sense. I was the chair of the LEP, you know, up until 2 years ago. So I had, you know, in the heart of the pandemic, you know, and, you know, you become, the alchemy of Manchester is so powerful. And that's the reality of it, that it's the people, the connections, the authenticity, And yes, there's not enough dumb money in Manchester because, you know, people see higher risk. But the reality is our creativity and our power of what we are and who we are will drive this, and it will happen. And as Manchester built itself over 30 odd years in my time, and many people have come and contributed to that, we have a case study of phenomenal pedigree, that this is what Manchester is able to do. And I say Manchester in the greater Manchester context, because it is greater Manchester that we should be thinking about in this particular prism. So a lot's changed, but some things will never change. And those things are the core values. On the shoulders of the people we stand on today, we have to look backwards as well as look forwards. What made us strong, what made us united, what made us authentic, we must stick true to that. We must never sell that for a few quid just because we can have it, or just because we think this is the way we should be. And we should be then very vocal about the fact that why is there this divide? And there is a need for us to not to gloss it up, not to sort of say, yeah, we're all right, but we're not all right. And we've got to fight for it like we fought for it from our history. And therefore we stand truly justifiable to anybody who wants to do business with us, because we give them a hell of a lot more than London does, and a hell of a lot more than any other city does, and we don't shout about it enough, guys. We don't truly say, and do we all know what the values of Manchester are? Do we really wear that robe properly? Because if we did, I'm telling you, any international funder, I go around the world now, and when I talk about Manchester, you know, I say, look guys, center of the universe, you've got to come it, feel it, taste it, touch it, and then you'll see the magic of it.
Brilliant, thank you. Great, thank you, Mo. Right, we have time for one more question, and this topic is to do with fundraising. So, startups in the room today, fundraising isn't necessarily the only way to garner success for your business. There are, you know, Danny, I know you've just started on your journey, but Susanna, that's not something you chose to do in the end, right? So you chose to go down the trade sale route instead of VC and private equity. Can you talk to us a little bit about why you decided to do that?
Yeah, so we actually bootstrapped OneFile, which I didn't know was a term until somebody told me about 3 years ago. So we self-funded ourselves all the way through, 15 years, grew every year, absolutely fantastic, which was brilliant because when we did sell, we owned 100% of the business, which was great. So we did actually start down a private equity route. So we were looking at private equity to acquire a business at the time. And then literally about a month later, COVID hit, and we just went, oh, holy crap. We've been at this for 14, 15 years, and we could lose everything overnight, and we haven't de-risked ourselves. You know, typical founders, we'd paid ourselves not the going rate as a salaries. Myself and my husband, we could have earned a lot more in trade ourselves, and we hadn't sort of sorted ourselves. So we decided to de-risk. So we went down a private equity deal to sell a minority stake to de-risk the family. We went through all the beauty parade, we did all that. We were very convinced that we had to, if we found the right one, it would be fine, the nice one. And we got all the way to exclusivity, and I just felt like we'd gone down a bit of a rabbit hole. We'd spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on due diligence. And I don't know, I just think maybe after 15 years, and it might be different for every single business in here, but maybe we were too mature in ourselves to take private equity personally, still very founder-owned and founder-led, to then bring a private equity company in. And I could see by some of the questions that they were asking that this wasn't the way that I wanted it to be, and I wouldn't want to run my business. And I'm not saying private equity, it's like that for everybody, it's just how I felt for it myself. So we decided to exit that deal. And then the trade buyer had been tracking us for about 3 years and ringing me up every 6 months saying, how do you feel? And they only buy 100%, how do you feel about selling? And I sort of said, well, I now know what I don't want, but so if you're anything like that, we wouldn't sell. And they said, no, we buy for life. We never flip a business. We buy and sustainably grow businesses for life. So then we started talking, and that's what we decided to do. But like I say, it isn't, I'm not saying PE is bad. It just wasn't for us. And, maybe with this new business, in a much earlier stage, it might be the perfect thing for us to do. But I just felt 15 years on, And I just felt like if I wanted to be in control of my exit of OneFile, because OneFile was my baby, literally my baby. So I'd heard of friends that had been exited from their own businesses, having gone into private equity deals and things like that, and that would have been the worst end for me of my business career at OneFile. So I wanted to make sure it happened in a way that I had control of.
Brilliant. Thank you, Susanna. Well, I'm sure you can all agree there's some golden nuggets of information there, from everything from paying it forward from Danny, growing your network from Susanna, and leading with purpose from Mo. So that's all we've
Tania,
got.
can I just, sorry,
Yeah,
wait.
sure.
I've got to do a plug. Look, we talked about talent at Host and at Skill City IN4 Group. We've got 600 tech interns who we upskill to come into you guys, to provide you skills for your product development. And these are people who are career break mums, career changers, and everything else. So we're creating that talent organically to go into your world to help you, develop your tech. So it's not all about cash. It's about talent, and we've got a model that, so anybody's interested, Claire's in the room, Simon's in the room, who leads our innovation stream. Please reach out to the guys and take benefit of that. Sorry, Tania.
That's all right. But if it is about cash, please come and see me as well. I'm more